Yo, yo. Yo, what up? Alright, I'm gonna give it 5 minutes so people can join up. I'll be right back. Hello? Wait, you guys said you can only hear out of one speaker? Okay. Not sure why that's happening. Hold on. Better? Is it working now? The fuck? Hold up. Wait, so John said he can hear me just fine. And then some people say only the left headphone is working. So what's going on? Is it still only the left headphone that? I mean, that's kind of weird. I mean, that would probably be your audio problem then, right? Okay. Babu, you sure your headphones are not fucked up? I don't know how I would control output only going out to like one side of your speakers. Huh. That's weird. Alright, so 3 people say they can only hear to the left. Let me just double check something. I will try to replug my mic, I guess. Alright, so one person said they can only hear me from the right side, and then some people said they can only hear from the left side, and then some people said they can hear from both sides. So I think some of you guys gotta charge your motherfucking AirPods. Probably one side is out. Okay, alright, cool. Alright. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and jump right in then. Wait, Shen, are you saying very low as in my volume is really low? Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Hello? Okay, alright, sounds good. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. I will go ahead and try to talk a little bit louder so everybody can hear. Um, yeah, my mic gain is all the way on max, so it should be pretty loud. Okay. Alright, cool. I jacked up the gain on both sides, so hopefully you guys can hear better now. Alright, I just gotta mess around with my mic settings a little bit. Alrighty, just doing an intro. So going on forward for the live streams, like what I'm gonna go ahead and do because people watch the recordings is I will go ahead and label and kind of grade the type of map that was on for the day, and I'm gonna try to come up with like unique names for each type of like characteristic of map. So the people that have been following along on Heatseeker, like you would understand that there's different characteristics for each style of map. So generally like when there's just, one major node and like prices, nearing a support level, we can kind of look forward to like a trend or a momentum day to the upside, or to the downside. Like those are, A setups or B setups. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get it all fixed afterwards. And then, yeah, day like today, like you've got a lot of chop because there's just a ton of different, there's a ton of different nodes all over the place. So you just get a lot of uncertainty. And those scenarios, like I usually grade them like a D or a F. And on those days, I also mention to people to try to size down a little bit, or just not trade at all. Like, we have so many trading days in the year. Like, you don't have to trade a subpar setup. And quite honestly, like the only differentiation between like profitable traders and unprofitable traders, given that all of the tooling and strategies remain consistent, is going to be like the level of discipline that people have with regards to whether they actually spend money to trade on that day or not. Like the people that can identify whether, the day is a trade worthy day are going to be the people that come out on top. Like I think the problem that most traders have is that like they force trades, like they just have FOMO, they have itchy fingers, like they can't go a day without taking a trade, and you need to break that habit. Like you really need to break that habit because like the market is going to present some great opportunities and they're going to present some shitty opportunities. Like why would you spend your hard-earned capital on shitty opportunities, right? Like there's a couple of things that's going to do to you, which is number one, like you're gonna have number one is like you're gonna have terrible psychology afterwards, especially if you lose money. Like it's gonna be like really bad. Um, and number two, like you just get used to trading on a shitty day, and what that usually ends up doing is like it changes your entire trading strategy around, right? Like if you're somebody who usually stays in a trade a little bit longer to try to get like maximum gain, if you're trading a shitty day, like what's gonna happen is like you get into the habit of scalping or like just getting in and out for like quick 10 to 20% trades, right? And then when the next good map comes by, like you're gonna be stuck in that prior mindset of trading like the shitty setup, and you might miss a big move because you're like, yeah, it's like muscle memory. You trade shit maps and you scalp here and there, and eventually you kind of become a scalper, even if it's a good setup. So today was a prime example of a day. Like I would consider this like a D or a F map. I kind of mentioned it like right off the get go that today wasn't a good day to trade. And this is nine. So all of these timestamps are Eastern time. If you're looking at it, like what you'll notice is, we put the spot price of SPX here, which is like the current price. Like right off rip after we opened, the spot price was like 6,102, and you could see like the major node here was like 6,100. So you know, right from the get go, like the first thing I know is like I don't want to take calls because even if we popped a little bit, like we would probably fade back down to the 6,100. And also like these are the ones that are interesting to me, like 6080, 6055, 6045. Like there's actually some decent downside pull today where it wasn't 100% clear that we would see a unidirectional move. Like unidirectional means like you just move in one direction. Like it's very clear that one side is favored. Okay. By the way, if I'm going through stuff and like you have follow up questions, like leave them in the YouTube chat. That way I can see them and then I'll go ahead and answer them as I go. Okay. I always have my YouTube live chat open, so if you ask questions there or have any comments, I'll generally be able to get to it. Okay. So yeah, we're piping it every 15 seconds. Like you're looking here, 6100 is still the largest. You've got like 6120 starting to grow right there. And I think what we saw is like the 6120 started to grow a little bit more. So you have like a slight upside bias, right? And what you'll notice is that, 6102, like, you drew 5 points. And then, I think at a certain point, like we get to a level where you've got like almost equal pull between the 6120 and the 6100. And then if you got equal pull, like what is our peak or ceiling for the day? It's 6110, right? And like what I'm not interested in is taking calls at all around this level. Like even if I saw 6120 growing, like you don't want to take calls because look, you're at 6104. Like let's just round to like 6105. Like you would literally have 5 points of upside with like 7 to 8 hours in the session to go, right? Like there was no like long side bias at all. Like if you wanted, like you probably could have scalped a couple of points here and there, and like I think some people did catch the scalp opportunity, but like at best you're catching like a 20% or like 25% trade. Like you're not catching like the major like meat on the bone. So I think over here, like we're at 6100, like you still see the 6120 here. Like when I'm seeing this kind of setup, like one thing I would do is like, okay, like earlier that 6080 was at 8 million, right? Now it's down to half of that, which is 4 million, but we're seeing 6120 light up, so I'm going to play a bounce trade off of 6100. Like this is one potential like decent trade that you could have taken. Like sure we've got 6055 and 6045 down here, but quite honestly, like these two are king. Like 6120 and 6100 are the largest at this point. So, one potential trade you could have taken is like buying the bounce off of that. And you can actually see it. Like it dipped, all the way down to like 6100 to the literal penny right there. And then we bounced from there, right? So if you caught that dip, with the expectation that we'll get some kind of upside pull because of the 6120 node, like this is where you got your 25 to like 40% trade if you timed it like perfectly, okay? So I think we went up to, 6106, but at that point, like, 6106, like, is getting closer to 6110, so you want to trim into it. And at a certain point, like, keep an eye on this 6080 because for the people that were, live and they were, following up with the commentary, one thing you'll notice is that the 6080 node gave us trouble all day, okay? And what you see over here between the 6120 and 6100 is that even if we were popping up, since the 6100 is not letting off at all and you've got equal pull between 6120 and 6100, it's very likely that we're not going to be able to cross above 6110. So technically speaking, like you don't have any upside like risk to reward here. Like you could take a bounce scalp off of 6100, but like those are always scalps. Like when you're playing the bounces and there's not enough upside range, like you should be in and out quick, okay? Like you shouldn't be holding for a moonshot. So yeah, I think we got up to like 6107, and then let's see what happens. Like I remember I told you keep an eye on the 6080. Okay, like right here we have 4.7 mil. So even already like it grew by a million. Okay, and then at this point, yeah, we're still hovering around like 6105, like 6108 even. But guess what's happening? Even though price is going up, you're seeing this downside node at 6080 continuously growing. Like this is very, very sneaky, and like it's easy to miss, but like this is why I tell people to keep an eye on the delta rate of change. It's like if there's a particular node that you're looking at that stands out to you, like keep an eye on it. And like in the chat, like I mentioned this like really early before the downside move even happened, which is how I was able to catch the puts on it. But like I said, mid-range 6120 and 6100, like I'm expecting 6110 to be the upside target at best. So like if you're shorting into 6110, then you've got, I mean, first thing first, like you could see 10 points of downside, but second thing second, once this 6080 starts to grow more and more, you're going to see a lot of downside pressure, okay? And like that's pretty much what happens. Like just keep an eye on everything. We're still, goofing around 6107. And like, that node 6080 is still something of interest to me. And like, I'll scroll down a little bit faster. Okay. Look at this. Now it's at 7 mil. It's at 7 mil. The 6120 is fading. Okay. And look at this. Now it's at 7 mil. It just keeps on growing while the upside 6120 is fading. Okay. So for me, like that is a fade the pop kind of setup. Like, I'm like, okay, if it drops below 6100 at this point, like, you don't have any like Gex support. Like, there's no purple nodes to like, hold support below here. There's not even like any major yellow nodes to hold support here. So, earlier the thing I was mentioning is like, okay, if this 6080 keeps on growing, like that's gonna become a problem. Like, even if we got any bounces, like the bounces would not hold and they would eventually fade back down, okay? So, look, even though we're slightly bouncing, this is still at 7 million, okay? 6.6, and like at this point, like the 6120 grows back, but again, like, you still got equal pull, so like 6110 is pretty much like it's still pretty much your upside target. Like, when you've got two king nodes here, like you have to pretty much add them two together and find the midpoint. So you pretty much add like 25 mil, 25 mil, that's 50 mil divided by 2 because it's two king nodes, and you get 6110 down here, okay? So that's like your upside ceiling. All right, and like, sure, like even though we're bouncing, like look at this, like it's still at 6.5 mil. Like we've literally bounced almost 10 points, but this node here has not dropped at all. So that means like the market dealers effectively are essentially anchoring like 6080 as like they're anchoring it pretty much to make sure that like price cannot keep on rising up. Okay. Then let's keep on scrolling down. Like we're still above 6100, and boom, now we're at 8 mil over here. Like just remember, like this number, like 6080 earlier was at like 3.8 or like 3.9 mil. So already we've seen this node double, And if you're looking at the rate of change, like 6100 and 6120 have essentially remained static. Like they haven't grown at all, they haven't really decreased at all, but like we're already at the top of the range, which makes it so that the upside is not really good in terms of the risk to reward. And like I'm actually more interested at this point in playing the downside because if the 6120 ever lets off and if we fall below 6100, like the next target down is like 6080, right? So let's just keep looking. Like today was a pretty active day. Like the dealers were active. There was a lot of shuffling happening. But like, look at this. Now we're still at 6105, right? Like the price has not even gone down yet, but we're looking at the 6080 at 10 mil now, okay? So this is a very, very clear divergence. Like if you read the FAQ section, I talk about divergences, which is where the spot price is going up, but then you're seeing a node that is opposite of the price of the direction that price is going, continuously growing. So 6080 earlier in the morning it was at like 3.9, now it's at 10.3 mil, okay? So it's very, very clear that the dealers are going to do something around that level, and they're pretty much expecting and trying to get price to move down towards that direction. Like you're seeing it over here as well. I think at a certain point, like we kept on chopping around, beating around the bush a little bit, and then we did see like a pretty major reshuffling. And let me go ahead and try to find that. Okay, like even at 6100 here, like this is at 12 mil now. Okay, so this one, it looks like the 6120 grew a little bit, so this might have thrown a little bit of people off. They're like, okay, like it looks like, we might be able to go up to 6120. But quite honestly, like the 6100 is still at 23 mil. Like you can almost consider this like an equal pull, and I actually still wouldn't be interested in playing the upside here. I'm still more interested in like the rate of change that's happening. Like 6120, if anything, it might have grown by like 30 or 40%. But the 6080 ever since the morning out the gate, like this one has almost grown by like 3 times the amount, okay? So that's like a 200% or 300% increase in that particular node. And something that happens as we go a little bit down, like it was pretty slow today, like it was literally chopping everybody up. Alright, still around 6100. Like today was just an absolute shitty choppy day. Like I told people either sit out or just play like lottos, and this is the reason why. Like the reason why I call this like a rainbow road is like you got a very, very colorful map. Like when you have such a colorful map like this, like it is not clear and it's very doubtful with regards to like where the price is actually gonna go. Like there's so many, like there's just way too many cooks in the kitchen. Like this is what I call it. Like there's so many different nodes that are all kind of competing for attention here. So even if we were going to go down, even if we're going to move upwards, like it's going to be very, very choppy and it's not going to be a clean move, which effectively results in you burning a lot of theta and losing money to time decay. So ideally, like the best thing you could have done today is like literally just sit on your hands and not trade it at all. But because I know people have itchy hands and I know it's not easy to follow instructions from some random, online stranger you met, like I tell people, like if you want to take a position, like just make sure you're taking a lotto, okay? Like I'll give insights, I'll give advice, but like you've got to listen to it. Like, there's people that did full ports today. There's people that did like 50% of their ports today. Some people did like 20 or 30 trades. And when I'm looking at that, like I just realized that I can't really press the buttons for people. And like as much as I want to tell people like, hey, it's a shitty day to trade, don't trade. Like some people just aren't gonna listen, and like you're just gonna have to learn through your own experience and your own pain of losing real money. Okay. So still, like we're still in that shitty range between 6100 and 6120. Like there's nothing really happening. But all right, so we got 6105, but this is still hovering around like 6080. Like that node is still, pretty noticeable. Okay. And we traded a lot of chop today. This is awful. Like I was pretty busy throughout most of this morning, so I didn't even see how this is playing out. But yeah, this looks like some very, very frustrating price action here. Okay, so at a certain point, like one thing that happens is like the 6100 completely diminishes, and I think what I mentioned is that they've cleared the floors. And what it means when they are clearing the floors is that if this 6120 starts to unwind and this 6080 continues to grow, like first of all, like 6080, despite price going up, it's at like 12 million now, okay, from 4 million. So this has grown 300%. It's undeniably strong. And one thing that they actually started doing is they started to let off the 6100. which is scary because this one used to be pretty strong and you can expect to play the bounces off of it, but now they've weakened it, which kind of sets things up for like a little mini rug pull. And if you're in the Asgard chat, like one thing I mentioned is like, hey, this is turning into a rug pull setup. Like, be very, very careful, okay? Because like when they're starting to clear these floors out or start to weaken them, they're trying to make way for it to hit a particular price point to the downside, okay? So this is when it started becoming a rug pull setup, and at this point, like this is when we were in puts, and we were just kind of writing them down. If you look at it, 6100 completely broke down. So next target down at 6080. But the thing is, like this 6120 node is still pretty strong. So eventually the thing that's gonna happen is that as it retraces down, like you're eventually gonna get a bounce. So as it's going down, you want to take profits, and a lot of people might be asking like, hey, well, where do you take profits, right? And one thing that I always say is price action always comes first, okay? So let's open up trading view real quick. We're at 6094. Let's look at the SPX chart. So generally what I saw is this right here, like there's a gap, and we're expecting that to fill. So I think for my puts at least, like I sold them on the gap fill here, like towards 6090. Unfortunately, it did dip a little bit lower, and like I didn't get like the full gains over here. But I exited here. It was good because like sure, like we dropped all the way to 6080, so we might have been able to make more. But because it chopped around for so long through most of the day, even if you held it, like you would have went from green to red on your contracts. So sometimes like on a choppy day today, like you just want to be quick on the profit taking, and start taking things off. Okay. Now, one thing to remember and keep note of that I wasn't able to play in particular, but anybody else should have been able to easily catch is throughout the day like 6080 is a critical level, right? Like this one has been giving problems all morning, and like they've even been growing to 6030 over here. So for me, like I keep note of these levels from the beginning of the day, and I keep note of them throughout the day as well. Sure, like the values on them might change, they might diminish, or they might go very, very small. But what we know is that the dealers are playing with that particular node to move and whipsaw price around in the way that they want to do it, okay? So what that means is, in the morning, if they were accumulating the 6080 to effectively, anchor the price down so it can't go up, then later, even throughout the day, if they wanted to do it, like I can imagine that they would leverage that particular point, okay? So on the map, or not on the map, but on your chart, like one thing you could generally do is like, okay, 6080 is a very important level. Like I'm gonna keep an eye on it, and let's see where 6080 is. It's right here, okay? Now this is no coincidence. Like we kept on going down. After the gap filled and we took profits, like we saw a little bit of a bounce towards like 6100. Like it starts going back up again. I believe at a certain point, this was at 1339. Let's go and take a look at what things look like at 1339. Because one thing you'll notice is that throughout the day, like what eventually happened again is like we got a massive accumulation of like 6100 again, like 6110 again. Like earlier this wasn't there, but it ended up coming back. So eventually like they're looking to pull this map back to the upside, or SPX back to the upside. Okay? The next trade that you could have taken, like I actually told people like after I sold my puts, like there's not really a good trade. Like it still looks like very, Rainbow Roadish. It's very colorful. I mean, one thing that we know is that there's still like pretty prominent upside pull here. So in that scenario, like what you should be doing is you should be in buy the dip mode. You're like, okay, like now these nodes came back to life. Like they're freaking massive, right? Like 6080 is still pretty strong. What this means is that if price ever drops down to 6080, well, you should be looking to buy the dip. Similarly to earlier, how 6100 was big and then we bounced like 8 points from there, okay? Let's go ahead and see when that happened. So generally, like you don't really want to trade during lunchtime, so all the way until 13 o'clock, you really shouldn't be taking anything. But after everybody returns from lunch, like that's when you want to start looking for opportunities. So you're taking a look at things. We're still at 6092. Like I don't really want to buy at 6092 because like you still got downside pull here. Like the only trade that I'd be willing to take is like if we dipped down to that 6080 node that was giving us trouble, and I would play the bounce back to the upside because look at this 6105 node. This was not here earlier. They established a massive position here. which is at 46 mil. It completely overpowered everything. Okay. Oh fuck, man, I hate this shit. Okay, anyways. So this was at 1330. What you'll see is that the 6105 here is massive. Like earlier, remember we had 6110 and we had 6120. Like this one came out of nowhere, like 46 mil. So I'm in buy the dip mode. The only reason I'm not buying the dip here at 6093 is because like you don't really have much upside, right? Like you've got like 10 points of upside. You've still got 3 hours in the day left to trade. But I'm gonna be in buy the pullback and buy the dip mode, okay? Because it's very clear that this is a dominant node at this point. So what do? If you see a dominant node, you look for whatever the downside dominant node is going to be, and you let that become a support bounce play potential, okay? The good news is that even as we're, growing the 6105, this 6080 has grown to 25 mil, which is a pretty prominent node. So if price ever pulled back to this level, like if price action checks out and everything is looking good, then you buy the dip there, and you shouldn't be scared to buy the dip. The reason why is because throughout this entire time, this 6105 is growing like crazy, and you've got little friends here pulling it up with it. So let's see what happens here. All right, like you're looking for downside opportunities, and look at this. Even though you've got these massive nodes up here, like you get a dip. Like you've literally dipped 6 points, and like that is a blessing and a gift. Like you've still got massive nodes up here. Like you've dipped into this cluster right here that essentially becomes a support, and like that is where you can expect price to hold. And now they're gonna create a range between this cluster of 610 to 6110, and then 6080 and 6075. So effectively, if let's say you buy the dip there, um, easily, like you could pull like 8 to 10 points. That's probably like a minimum 50% trade or like 60% trade later through the day. Like you might have, I mean, honestly, I didn't catch it, but if you caught that, I'm pretty sure it would have at least printed like a double, like a 100% trade, because generally at 2 p.m. Eastern time, like contracts are a lot cheaper. So you can go ahead and buy cheap, and those bounces give you a lot more better percentage returns. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much like the opportunity that I saw. Like if you look at it the entire day, like it was pretty shitty, but there were two decently clean trades, which is like the short off of the 6110 level, which is the midpoint between 6,000 and 6,020. Only because we saw that sneaky 6080 node growing. Like we knew it would come into play eventually throughout the day. Like generally it always happens, and that's the reason I tell people keep an eye on the rate of change of the nodes, because those are the ones that we know dealers are going to be like hovering over and kind of giving a lot of attention, and it's bound to kind of play a role in the day's price action in the future. So yeah, that short was the first trade I took. After that, like I mentioned, I actually personally played call autos, and they got data burned because I entered a little bit early. Then I had to go ahead and head out for the day. Like I didn't want to give up any profits. Wanted to close the day green still. But yeah, the 6080 bounce would have been like the optimal entry for upside calls. All right, so that was pretty much the day. If anybody has questions, like let me know. I think the one question that somebody asked me in the chat was like, can you explain a little bit more about the 6080 node and why it came into play, why it became popular? The simple answer is because we saw the rate of growth on that one. Like in the morning, it was 8 mil, then it dropped all the way to 3 mil, then it became like a 12 mil node, and then I think at this point it's 27 mil. So it's a pretty big one that they were playing around with and kind of anchoring around. So those are important nuances to kind of keep track of. I mean, nonetheless, like, ideally I would have preferred people not trade this shit at all because it was such a shitty map. Like, these shitty maps will come, and, like, it's not the map's fault, by the way. Like, the map is actually telling you and giving you insights into what are going to be good trading, trading conditions versus bad trading conditions. The best thing you could do on days like this is literally just fuck off and, like, go enjoy your day. Like, you don't even have to trade it. But if you must, like you have to just be a lot more disciplined in terms of your size and in terms of your entries. Like you've got to take perfect entries. Like you can't front run. Like you can't, like if you try to get in early, like you get data fucked. Like that's what happened to me today. Like I entered some lottos with profits, so like I still ended green on the day. But the second trade I took, like I entered a little bit early because I got impatient, and we just got chopped up. Okay, but if we waited for the 6080 bounce, like that shit was perfect. Like it bounced on the money, like literally on the dot, and then it gave us a pretty good pump off of that. Okay. Yeah, once the rate of change feature gets added, it will definitely make days like this a lot more tradable. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting like trade-off in terms of like feature development because implementing the rate of change if I'm only showing one column in like one day would be a lot easier. But since I have to apply it across like all nodes for like the next 5 days, it gets pretty complicated in terms of like the processing that's required to go ahead and do it because I'm already doing so much of it. So I'm still thinking about the implementation and like how we're gonna go ahead and put it into place. But yeah, once we have it, it's gonna be good. Even if we don't have it, like the beauty of heat maps is that like it's all color based. So unless I mean, even if you're colorblind, I think you can still see shades. But you just got to kind of train your eyes to be able to like see these differences as you're scrolling through the maps until we have like the web UI available. Yeah, once the web UI is available and I have like the full feature set available, like I'm actually gonna add, like you can go ahead and set up alerting systems as well. So like if we're experiencing, for example, a rate of change of like greater than 100% in a particular node, from like 10 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, then it should go ahead and ping you and say, hey, like this one's popping up, like just keep an eye on it. Like all of that stuff is coming. That's why I did the feedback survey to see, you know, to see what features we should prioritize. Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, we're gonna have the replay feature as well. So like, you literally just have a slider that you just slide back and forth, and you can go ahead and see historical, maps and like future maps. But I think building that is gonna require a complete re-implementation of how we have everything developed and built. So yeah, I think right now I'm just focusing on expanding the team with people I can trust, so we can go ahead and ship a lot faster. Like right now, I've just been working on like keeping the app up and running, and what you've noticed is that since the last time we had downtime, like it's never went down again. Like that's literally been like my number one priority is to make sure this doesn't go down because if it does, then it's really bad. You guys will all lose money. Yeah, Nico, I think yeah, I for Gex for like all five columns, like it really depends. Like maybe for SPX it doesn't matter, but I think for individual tickers, like it does matter. So generally, when I'm implementing it, like I try to make it consistent across all of the feature set that we have and like all of the tickers we're trading. So when I think about the implementation, like I'm kind of thinking of it from like holistically. But yeah, I can consider and think about what it's going to look like for a single individual column. I just have to think about yeah yeah, it's a little bit complex. Like I've got to re-architect and kind of think about how we're gonna put that into place. Yeah, but for now, put in some elbow grease and do some yeah, put in a little bit of effort, and we'll have to kind of do it the hacky way for now. I mean, good thing is that like if you look in the Heatseeker chat, like you've got people like looking at this shit all day. So the more people we have in there, we've got like 110 people in there. The good thing is that like you've got a ton of eyes on it. So it's almost like we've got a sweatshop that's running that's effectively finding those rate of changes for us. So we'll have to resort to that until we get further development. No, no, like I mean, Nicholas, you're absolutely right. Like we could go ahead and implement it for that single particular column. I still have to think about it, man. Like there's a lot that I'm kind of thinking through and um, just trying to think about from long term, like what the right way to implement it's going to be. Because the one thing right now is like even just calculating like each of these nodes individually, like I get a lot of um, like it's just a lot of processing to do, like literally every second. So if I have to calculate rates of changes, I'm just thinking about what the best way to do that's going to be. All right. Any other questions on the day? I know it was an interesting map to change or trade. I mean, next time you see a map like this, you know what to do. Like you go out and you go do something. Like, don't try to be a hero and trade this. Like, I traded, and like, I'm happy. I was up like 3% on the port, and then I decided to take some more lottos, and I only closed like 1% up. But if you're able to manage to stay green or flat on the days like today, like you are well on your way to consistent profitability. Like this is always why every other like retail trader fucks up. Like they trade, they make money. They trade, they make money. Then they get fucked on days like today, and it completely throws them off the rhythm, and it throws them off of their groove. Like the massive unfair advantage that all of you guys have is like you literally know how the day is going to play out. Like you know if the day is going to be choppy, you know if the day is going to be a range day. Like if you know that, like use that to your advantage, right? You don't have to trade and blow up. Like that's the good thing. Yeah, Shen, like the web UI is going to be nice, man, because effectively what you're going to be able to do is like, for the people that like to see longer term, like you'll even be able to, select how many strikes you see. Like technically in terms of like the data, like I store data all the way out like 3 to 5 years from now. So like if you look at the back end, like I have even data for nodes for like, 2026 and 2027. Um, and later when we do have the web UI, I mean, I actually have the web UI and I have access to it. I just haven't put like auth in front of it, so like I don't want to go ahead and show the link, but I can expand the y-axis, I can expand the x-axis, and like I have like the holistic picture. It's just not available to you guys yet. All right, let's see what other questions there are. Yeah, ES and QQQ is like it's been ready for a dump, but I'm not sure why it's not dumping. Yeah, it might just keep on going up. It might just keep on mega pumping. I'm not entirely sure, but that's why I like day trading. Like I don't need to predict like how things are gonna go in terms of, swing setups. Like I wake up in the morning, I let the heat map tell me if I'm gonna play calls or puts or if I'm gonna play both. And I mean that's the beauty of like using Heatseeker is that you don't have to you don't really even have to prepare the night before. Like that's the cool thing because like you literally wake up in the morning and you look at the map and you're like, okay, now I know what's gonna happen. Like it's awesome. Uh, yes, Shan. Like that's a really good point. Like one thing that people should know is that SPX is a very common ticker that like big funds use to stay hedged for their other positions. So if you really want clarity with regards to where we might end up going into the future, it's better to compare the SPX Vanna map to how the maps for tickers like Tesla, Nvidia, like Meta is looking. For example, if SPX is showing a massive node down at 5800, but for that same day you're seeing like Tesla, Nvidia, like Apple, Meta, and everything going to the fucking moon on the maps, then you know that that 5800 node is very very likely a hedge for some unforeseen event. That's kind of why I started implementing the newer tickers. Like even if like SPX maps are absolutely the best. Like I've got those nailed down in terms of the overall data model and the level of accuracy. All of the individual tickers, like they're not as fine tuned as SPX's, but also what makes it more difficult is that they only trade weeklies. So what that means is that dealers can literally do whatever the fuck they want for the first 4 days of the week, and Friday is when they're gonna actually try to pin it at a particular price. So I like using the tickers to kind of see like trends in terms of the sectors. Like Nvidia was showing like all the way up to 165 going into mid July, and like that was showing up like 2 or 3 days ago. So like we knew we were gonna see Nvidia pump, which likely means that like semis are gonna pump as well. Let's see. If I go back to say March 31st for Q1 end, is the data good? I'm not entirely sure. Like I actually have a TTL on data right now and a retention policy, so everything after 30 days I'm wiping out because my storage costs have been ballooning, and also I don't want my Redis to get overloaded. Yeah, the boot camps. I'm not entirely sure. Like, this might be the last time. I might end up doing it again. Like, one thing for sure is like we've gotten to a point where we've effectively built such an easy tool to use, and like for me, like time is really really important. Like I have finite time, but there's way too much stuff for me to do. So, It really depends on what happens with Heatseeker and like the glitch terminal I'm building. For the people that don't know, like this is like Heatseeker is literally like 1% of what you're going to be seeing, 5 to 10 years from now. Like we're essentially kind of reimagining what a Bloomberg terminal for like the modern day professional retail trader would look like, and we're just skimming the surface with like Trader Tail and Heatseeker. Like Trader Tail becomes like the social component and like the gamified leaderboard component of a terminal, and then Heatseeker is kind of the. I mean, Bloomberg Terminal actually has these as well, but it's in an older format, and they just use plain vanilla OI. So personally, like I don't think it's as overpowered as what Heatseeker is, but effectively, like we're reimagining what that should look like, and I think going into the second half of this year, like I'll probably be heads down and like it's gonna get busy because like I'm raising outside funding now. Like we've already brought in outside funding, so really a lot of my attention and focus will be on building product rather than doing a bunch of Zoom sessions. Perv login using Discord. Yeah, there might be a login using Discord. Perv, like the main thing I need to figure out is like how to do auth in a way where it can't be shared, and also like security is very very important to me. The login via Discord is like a little bit scary because Discord accounts often get hacked. So I'll have to think about it. Like I'm still deciding right now. Yeah, even auth hasn't been my priority right now. Like my priority right now is just making sure that Heatseeker, has like 99.99% uptime, which is like an incredible feat to go for. And also, I need to make sure that if it ever goes down, we don't lose any data in the process. So I'm building a data pipeline to effectively. We're building a data pipeline and then we're containerizing each component of the application. So if one part of the application goes down, like the data is not compromised from the pipe, like the data pipe that I'm actually pulling everything from. So we're building that out. It's all in the staging and test environment, but it requires like weeks of testing before we actually push it out to production, so we can capture any like unforeseen circumstances and bugs. But once we've got that project taken care of and done, like we should be working on a lot more feature development. 400 character password with three-factor authentication. All right. Any other questions? Now is your time to ask questions. Yeah, I'll try to do these like at least once a week. One thing that I'm gonna try to get a little bit better at is coming up with like particular examples and characteristics of like map grades. Like Friday and Thursday was freaking beautiful. Like I consider those like B setups or A setups. Like they were very very clean. Like great opportunities to trade them. Today was just absolutely shit. But we all knew that. We mentioned it's not a good day to deploy capital, but people are gonna have to learn through their own ways. Yep, no problem. Any other questions or thoughts? I'll give it like a minute and then I'll shut things down. Alrighty, no problem. I'll see you guys later then. Good night.